I am Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susie.
And we're paranormal specialists who live in the most haunted city on earth, Savannah, Georgia. Every day is Halloween in our line of work, so join us as we spin true tales of haunts, murders, and disturbing Savannah history. I'm Madison.
I'm Chris.
And welcome to the most haunted city on earth. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the most haunted city on earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susie.
And I'm JT Timmons.
And we are here with a Ghostmail.
Ghostmail. You've got Ghostmail.
Yeah, we were waiting on it.
Yeah, sorry. Sometimes I forget.
It's okay. Just play that in the background.
But first, we got some good announcements.
Yes, we do have some good announcements. So first off, the Waverly Hills film that we've made is basically a documentary on our investigation at Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky, is going to be coming out on May 24th.
Yes.
Woo-hoo. And the trailer...
That's the public. It's
to the public,
17th. Yeah, it's the 17th on Patreon.
Cool. Yeah, the trailer, if you want to see it, is out everywhere. I just dropped yesterday from when we're filming this, so different day for when you guys are hearing this. But it's on YouTube, it's on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, like literally everything you could think of. And you can find us on all of our social media under Haunted City Podcasts. So if you don't follow us on social media, that is a good opportunity to go check it out. It's very cool. Debria's worked very, very hard on this. So
countless hours.
So she really is excited to share all of it with y'all.
Yep.
And the trailer is super creepy. I mean, I was there and I was like, ooh, that's chilling.
Yeah. It may not have been as creepy inside the morgue drawer, but it was very creepy standing outside of it.
Yes, it was. It's true. So, yeah, that will be out on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. And that's going to be out on the 24th and then 17th on Patreon. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah. And then we want to thank some new Para-Junkies because we've got quite a few recently. So we want to thank...
Yes, welcome to the Para-Junkie family.
Yes. We want to thank Amy, Jamie D., Howard Mathis Jr., Leslie Ann Duran, Aubrey Nicole, Nancy, and Marcy Riddle.
Yes.
Or Rydell.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome, y'all.
We have candy.
Oh, whoa. That's just weird.
We do not have candy. There's no candy
we have
here.
No ads.
Don't let the candy be the reason you show up.
We do have no ads though.
We
and
do.
We have a library, a full Smithsonian museum filled of content.
Yes.
So
we will keep you busy.
Yeah, we will keep you busy. You could literally just listen to us constantly if you wanted to. Yeah, so thank y'all for joining us over on Patreon.
Yeah.
And then I think a couple of those people actually sent in some ghost mail, so I'm sure it'll be coming up soon.
Noise.
And then last but not least, announcement, we're going to be, JT and I, and hopefully Chris via Zoom, are going to be at the Micaville Outpost right outside of Burnsville, North Carolina. Now, the Micaville Outpost has become one of the places that JT and I really love in that area. It's only been open for a few months now.
Yeah, only a few months, like 2-3 months.
Yeah, and they are such cool people. It looks like a normal little general store when you look at it on the outside. But what caught our attention was it was like dry goods, something, and haints. And we're like, haints? You got haints in there?
They got haints.
Pick up a 12-pack of haints.
Literally. And so we were like, well, we have to go in. And
yes, and we got Chris a shirt that we still have not given him.
Yeah, it's literally sitting.
So they say.
It is sitting in our house.
It is Bigfoot riding a bicycle.
It is being guarded by Gillith Dew, our cat. She likes to sit in that basket next to it. So, but yeah, so we're actually going to be going up there and we're going to do an interview with them talking about Appalachian folklore.
Appalachia.
Because they actually just put out a very interesting post about whistling in the woods and why you shouldn't whistle in the woods. So take it from people who literally live in those woods.
Have you ever seen the video of the guy who's followed by a whistle? Like he was followed by a whistle for most of his
I think
life,
I know what
and
you're
he's like
talking
he's
about,
like on a lake, and he's like, "Do you hear it?" And it's like a two-tone whistle.
Yes,
it's like a high
I've
and
seen
low.
I've seen it. That's
So
creepy.
creepy.
So creepy. But yeah,
So-
so we're going to be talking about cryptids. We're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff. They in their shop, they have a ton of haunted objects. So I'm sure they'll show us some of those. And then, yeah, my favorite thing in their shop is they have a moon-eyed person with a moon pie cut out.
Yep.
Yeah,
Pretty dope.
pretty dope.
So yeah, that's going to be on Patreon, live only on Patreon. That's Tuesday at 5 p.m.
Yep.
So yeah,
Awesome.
join Patreon
Awesome.
and you'll be able to get it zero
Awesome.
ads, and it'll be just awesome. Yeah, we're just gonna talk to them because they are they live their life in Appalachian folklore. So be pretty
I like it.
fire.
We're here for that. So,
Yeah, and Coley said that she loves the trailer and it's wonderful.
oh,
So-
good.
and said go to Bria.
Go to Bria.
Go to Bria.
Yeah, she has been an editing
Goes hard.
machine.
Goes hard.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Is everybody ready for some Ghostmail?
Yes.
We got the live stream going. Everyone's joined us. Let's do it.
All right. So this first one is from Hannah. So, hello, my name is Hannah, and I've been listening to your podcast on YouTube for about a year now. Just want to start off saying I adore y'all, and I check for uploads basically every single day. Also, I would like to apologize beforehand for my bad grammar / crazy long sentences. Sorry, JT. All right, buckle up because this is going to be a long drive. I am buckled. What's that meme where it's like I am sat?
I am sat.
First in context, I am a young witch, 19 years old,
Okay.
who has been setting up altars and unknowingly practicing protection magic since I was about 10-ish years old. I feel you. It'd be like that. Recently, my family and I have had some stressful situations since the eclipse.
Oh, wow.
Which is not surprising because after the eclipse, we also went into Mercury retrograde, which is the time of chaos and miscommunication. So unfortunately, it was like a mass of chaotic energy coming at everybody. But my mom found out she has to move out of her home. On top of that, we learned that some of my late father's things that we were being looked after by other family members were auctioned off due to them not paying the storage unit bills. That's horrible. I'm so sorry.
Oof.
My father passed from lung cancer when I was 12. He was a motorcycle mechanic and a metalhead who had been building his own bike, which my little brother and I were supposed to receive when he turned 18, along with some guitars and a few other things. My brother's a dirt bike kid and basically has oil coursing through his veins. So this news was very devastating to us. He always looked forward to finishing Dad's bike. And I always thought I would get the guitars when the time was right in my life. Naturally, me and my little brother and my mom have had a stressful few days and a terrible feeling of no control over our lives. But let's move away from the sad stuff and get into the spook of it all. Haha. My brother just turned 17 a few days ago. This morning, he told me he experienced his first sleep paralysis episode. He explained it felt like something was holding him down on the bed by his head and keeping his eyes closed. He said he couldn't see anything or move at all, but he could almost feel something out at the corner of his room. And kind of make it out in his mind's eye, he said it was giving Dementor from Harry Potter.
Sure.
That's
Yep.
honestly how I picture
Yep.
sleep paralysis demons in my head.
Seriously, though.
And which one was one of the stories that came in? That was like the mom.
Oh, right.
And her had been like experiencing the thing that was like, look at me, look
Yeah.
at me. I always pictured that as a
Dementor.
As a
Dementor.
mentor. Yeah.
Straight up.
He then told me he could hear a faint laughter, and at first he was kind of laughing with it until he realized he didn't have any control over his body.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, that's not funny.
Troublesome.
Yeah. The more scared he got, the louder and deeper the laughter became until eventually it sounded like something was right in his ear, laughing as loud as it possibly could. He told me he couldn't shake the feeling that it was laughing at him and the fact that there was nothing he could do about these recent events, almost feeding on his anxiety and grief. He started yelling at it in his head, and then he was able to shoot up out of the paralyzed state. He thought he had scared it away, but he could still feel it lurking around outside his room. Now, as I said before, I am very witchy. I moved out of our house about a year ago, so he took over my old room. I have lots of protection charms and other things still in that room, so I was very surprised when he told me this. But I was confident that I could cast whatever this thing is away from him. Nobody makes fun of my little brother but me. After I explained to him that he could call into our father for protection, and that would certainly scare whatever this thing is away. Our father was a scary dude, to say the least. I started flipping through my newest book on witchcraft called A Blood and Bones. I came across 3 pages with exactly the kind of spell I was looking for. A deer antler dominance spell to show this thing who's boss. However, there are strange green marks on these pages that I've never seen before, almost like fingerprints bleeding through the paper. This book is very new, very clean, and while my room is pretty messy, I don't see how they would have got in the book because they are not on the outside of the pages, only on the inside. I find it very strange that the exact spell I want to use is marked. It almost got me thinking how odd that an entity that wants to mess with my little brother would not immediately consider me as a threat, especially since he's sleeping in my old room with my magic. At first, I thought how stupid of this thing, and I found myself laughing at it. Now, I still feel I should go through with making this charm and cleansing the house. I've consulted my cards, and I want to trust my intuition. A part of me believes the marks could be from my father. He often reaches out to me, and I use this energy to protect myself on the daily. I always say if I have faith in anything, I have faith in the dead. However, his energy has never once been green. It's usually silver. I'm still a little concerned that this thing is smarter than I laughed it off to be. Then I opened YouTube to do my makeup and thought, oh, heck yeah, I finally have a Ghostmail. Another small yet strange detail. I told my bestie/roommate about the situation. She joked that I finally have a reason to use those wasps. I have a jar with 3 big Asian wasps that I've been dying to use in some kind of baneful protection work. No, listen though. I'm kind of here for it. A little bit.
Do it.
We laughed about
I bet
it.
that'll sting.
I'm just saying. But anyways, we laughed about it and we were making jokes like, get wasps or release the wasps. When I sat down on the couch before work today, I looked down at the table to find just the head of a small wasp. I thought to myself, girl, what? I put it in the jar with the others, but I could swear I felt it move in my hand.
Ooh.
They absolutely reeked, by the way. Don't seal dead things in jars unless you're prepared for a punch in the nose when you open it. Oof. Who knew? I opened my book again to find a segment on wasps right before the antler spell, explaining how they are heavy hitters. Yes, they are. They sting more than once and then call their friends over with pheromones. I can't tell if the marks in the head of the wasp are signs that I should hit this thing with my all or if it's begging for some kind of fight. I suppose I just have to make one MacFay daddy of a charm to find out. Do you think I should include a wasp? Hopefully my brother gets some real sleep tonight. I would love to know y'all's thoughts on this situation. I'm going to make the protection charm and I'll send updates depending on how it goes. Once again, I love you guys so much. Y'all are my absolute favorite YouTube channel.
Aw.
That's very
Appreciate
sweet.
it.
I'm so excited to see what y'all make of this. Hopefully, you'll see my username on Patreon soon. It's usually xleafsoupx.
xleafsoupx.
I almost said, sorry, the Ghostmail is so long, but whenever I'm listening to them, I think the longer the story, the better. True. Thank you, guys. I'm excited to see what content you have cooking up for us paranormal addicts. Have a lovely, spooky day, Hannah.
Aw, Hannah, thank you.
No,
Thank you.
So, as much as I love baneful magic,
I'm a big fan.
I don't know if it's smart in this situation. Maybe save the wasps for something else, you know?
Yeah, so I get an impression that you might be dealing with something that was quite possibly feeding off of you, and in your absence is trying to get you to give it more power. Casting against it might be exactly what it wants. It might want you to expend a certain amount of power to power it. And one of those things that almost like feels like it could be is the delivery of a head to an enemy. That specific message, time honored, is a bring it situation, which also suggests you should not use wasps because it seems like you're being goaded. Just worth thinking about. I'm not saying that that's what's happening. It's just like something that's playing is like, oh, you say your room was warded, but that means it could be an entity that A, knows your wards, B, relies on you for something and is using your brother to bring you back. So keep those kinds of things in mind as you move forward, that's possible. Those are possibilities. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm saying I get the sensation that you might be dealing with something, and you said it, that might be smarter than it appears, because the one thing that you have to realize is that if it's getting past your wards, then it may have been there all along. And it may have favored you and may have given you some grace. And when you're gone, it hungers for you and is trying to get you back or trying to get you to expend energy. And if you expend energy from your home into that home, you build a bridge, and it can travel that bridge right to you. So just be mindful. That's all I'm saying.
I will say it might just be worth trying at least to do a complete refresher of your wards in the way of there's no way that an entity would know what exactly you're putting. So making your own sigils, because a lot of people, especially when they first start out making wards, they will use common runes or protective sigils.
Right,
that
the look-up sigils.
Right, that are regularly used, which unfortunately is not the most powerful type of ward that you could use, because if you know about it, something else could know about it. But if you make your own sigil, which is not difficult to do, it really can be anything as long as you're putting the intention of like, this is what this means, and only I know what this means. That can be very powerful. Maybe, I don't know exactly what you're warding your room with, but if you have crystals, it might be time to cleanse them.
Yeah, crystals can be compromised.
Yeah, pretty easily, especially with, softer crystals that absorb. So if you have a lot of selenite, it might be worth cleansing that. Recommend getting black tourmaline or obsidian, things that absorb. But you can also make wards out of anything.
And entities that vibe with you, entities that are able to share in your energy patterns, they're not going to be affected by your wards in that way because you're not warding against yourself. So that's... We talk about mimics a lot, and we talk about doppelgangers and things of that nature. There are spirits that will imitate your energy. They will liken themselves to you because it is a way to mimic living and being alive and having life force. So it does get tricky. And the attachment may predate your making of the wards, which means that you were making the wards with this thing attached to you, and it does not drive the thing that's attached to you away. It just keeps other things from entering. So these are all interesting things, because also if you ward something that's attached to you and you leave, the thing that's been warded might be stuck inside the ward. So, there's lots of like telltale, I think I've heard or been a party to situations like this where someone had warded their house, but the spirit was now trapped inside the house, not outside the house.
Right.
And that can happen. A spirit can get trapped inside your ward instead of outside of your ward.
But
Y'all are so good at this, and I'm just like, there's a yellow jacket pun in there somewhere.
there definitely is somewhere. But yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that's a good step. Don't do anything too drastic. As much save those wasps for a good use.
And remember that anything that you cast is a direct line to you. And that's one of those things, in those simple terms are like, anything you cast will be revisited upon you 3 times. Those things. The reason why they have warnings like that is because you can't. It's not a grenade. You're not throwing it and then it's gone from you. Mm-hmm. It's a whip. You're cracking a whip, and it is still in your hand because all of your intention is what powers the weapon. So be mindful of that. All magic users need to be mindful that they are connected to their art. It isn't, just because you want to hit somebody on the other side of the world with something doesn't mean it's untraceable in those circles. It'll always be your spell and therefore traceable back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah.
Appreciate that, Hannah.
So the next one is a Hatman story.
Woo! Oh my gosh. Wait, so hold on. I was literally just thinking, wow, we get a lot of hags and hatmen.
Yeah.
Sleep paralysis, Hatman, hand in hand.
What in the
Apparently.
heck?
So
That's crazy. But those are the most common spirits to see.
They
I feel
really
I
are.
feel like the show is low-key kind of proving that.
Well, and to think that Hatman is a phenomenon that people are oftentimes introduced to and then realize, oh, I've had this experience. Mm-hmm. I find that to be endlessly interesting, how many people I've told about the Hatman only to have them realize, oh, when I was 7 years old, this happened.
it gets pulled from their subconscious.
Right. Well, because you don't think about it beyond, I had a weird experience. And then when they really think about it, it's like, oh, he did have a hat on. He was wearing a hat.
So I don't know who this person's or what this person's name is. So we're just going to call him Hatman Friend.
Hatman Friend.
So, hello, it's me again. Hello, Hatman Friend. I told you guys the story about my brother seeing the red-eyed Hatman.
Oh, right, the red-eyed Hatman. I was actually just thinking about that.
Yes.
Okay.
We will never forget the red-eyed Hatman because it was the first time.
Because when you're talking about the Dementor, I was like, ever since that one Ghostmail with the red-eyed Hatman, that's all I could think of.
I wanted to tell a quick
You thought about that today?
Just now.
Just a second ago.
Just during that last Ghostmail.
Yeah.
When she was saying that paralysis demons are Dementors, I was like, paralysis demons to me are Hatmen with red eyes.
What in the heck?
But yes, I wanted to tell a quick story of how men and or I think they meant me and my brother unknowingly brought a malevolent mimic into our home.
Lovely.
And why we cleanse almost everything before we walk through our house threshold.
We're hitting all the bases.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
It goes like this. Around the end of August and the first 2 weeks of September, my hometown of Dyersburg, Tennessee, has its yearly county fair.
Before we go any further, Dyersburg?
Yes, but it's spelled
Dyersburg.
It's Dyers Berg.
Oh, I'm like Dyersburg. That sounds like a Goosebumps
It
novel.
does.
Right?
In downtown Dyersburg, the evil Dr. Hench.
Murderville.
But Dyer County and Dyersburg Fair. Around the time I was 16 and my brother was 15, I had just gotten off my learner's permit and got my license that year and drove us there. We ended up getting there before separate groups of friends showed up. So we decided to walk around and play a few carnival games and waiting on them so we all could go on rides together. When you enter the park, you buy game tickets and ride tickets. There were only game vendors that would take cash, or there were also game vendors that would also take cash only. And that's where it all started. We bought a few gaming tickets and started playing darts to win posters. I won a few with anime characters and we moved on. At one of the vendors who took only cash, I saw a huge stuffed tiger and was, and like any teenage girl, I needed to have it, in all caps.
It's so fluffy.
It's so fluffy. I'm gonna die. So my brother paid a couple of dollars to try to get it for me, but only managed to win a tiny plush tiger that could fit in your hands comfortably. I was still happy that he even tried and cherished that tiny thing. The same vendor, before handing me the stuffed animal, tried to get my brother to play another round, double or nothing type thing, and we already knew the gimmick and just told him we'd take what we want and leave. The man seemed to get upset and handed the toy to me, almost in a way tossing it with a mean look on his face. We just shrugged and walked off to get something to eat and make sure my brother's blood sugar didn't drop before getting on any rides. Side note, my brother became a diabetic right around the time the Hat Man stopped visiting him in his dreams.
Interesting.
That's horrifying.
I actually have a friend who had a life-threatening event, and he was so scared that he became diabetic. That fear was the cause of his diabetes.
Whoa.
That's horrifying.
Yeah. And I never heard that before. And I was like, that can't be right. And he's like, it's what the doctors say, that I had such an anxiety attack that my endocrine system stopped working correctly.
That's wild.
He was so panicked.
Wow.
That's wild.
Literally just came out of nowhere. He was always an active kid and ate healthy foods growing up. The day we found out, he almost died as we rushed him to the ER. My mama thinks it was a get back from the Hat Man from banishing him. That's even more concerning. Anyways, she remembered my brother saying he told him that he'd come back for him. And she was thinking that was him trying to come and collect. I think your brother's Hat Man might be the most horrifying Hat Man.
He is so aggressive.
So aggressive.
So aggressive. I think he's a demon wearing a hat. I don't think he's Hat Man. I think he's
Yeah. Well, because I've never heard of a Hat Man coming to collect, you know?
But there was that Hat Man in the backyard being all like trying to get in that one time.
Yeah.
But,
At bang
But
camp.
this
even
one,
that.
This one speaks.
Yeah.
That's another thing that is very rare for a Hat Man to talk or have eyes, for that matter. So it's endlessly fascinating, this specific Hat Man saga.
Yeah, it really is. She refused to let that happen and went to my auntie, who prayed and cleansed him. Now back to the story. We get home and I hung my posters up and set my new plush with the rest of my stuffed animals I collected at the time. A few days would pass and things started getting creepy. The first thing that started happening was things would disappear and reappear in other rooms. When that kept happening, it started making us angry at each other because we thought someone was playing around too much. One of those days, I had a bad argument with my brother because I thought he had hid my car keys. When I found them, they were sitting right next to the toy plush he had just won me. I usually always keep my keys on the kitchen counter, and that threw me for a loop. There would be days when my parents would start arguing over small things, like full-on screaming matches. My parents had never argued like that in front of us. With each passing day, the arguments between me and my family became more frequent, and the energy of the house became darker and heavy. It felt like we were feeding into it. I chalked it up to be that we were having a rough patch in the family dynamic because there are adults and two teens living in a confined area with each other, and the whole teenage rage and parents frustrated about it finally kicking in. The day I realized that wasn't the problem is when I started hearing the voices. At first, it didn't sound like much, more like a muffle here and there. Then it started to sound like my dad, and a few days later, my mama. I remember one particular day I had just got home from school. My brother had football practice and my mama didn't get off till 3 hours after we got out of school. My dad usually got off around an hour after I got home. So I'm home by myself. I make me a snack and go to my room to watch Toonami, if you know, you know. About 30 minutes into my show, I heard my dad, in what sounded like a whisper at first, call my name from my parents' room. I was confused. I hate that. Ooh, I hate that. I was confused because I never heard him come into the house. Not paying attention to it, thinking it was my imagination, I kept watching my show. Then it called my name louder and clearer. Courtney, come here. Okay, so now we have a name. Courtney. Thinking that he did indeed come home and I just wasn't listening, I get up and walk to their bedroom door. I peeked my head in and nothing. The room was pitch black and I walked around the house, now terrified that someone was in the house with me. As soon as I finished my walkthrough, my dad walked through the kitchen door. He asked me if I was okay, and I told him what happened, and he decided to walk the property himself to make sure no one was there. I started getting scared because the old folk around here used to always say, if you hear a disembodied voice, never answer back because that's the devil trying to lure you.
Ooh.
Around this time, my brother started having weird dreams again. No, the Hat Man never came back, but he didn't like them nonetheless. Well, it was copying my dad's voice only. It was copying everything about my mama. I remember sitting in the living room next to the window, power reading a book that needed to be returned the next day to the library. I looked up to see my mama walking past the fireplace going towards her bedroom from the direction of the kitchen. So her path was kitchen, living room, hallway, parents' room. Her appearance was odd and she was stiff in walking, straight back and head forwards without looking at me. She always made sure to make small talk anytime she walks to a room with any of us in it before moving on. She didn't this time. A few minutes after, I heard her voice say from their room, "Food will be ready soon." She was making lasagna that night, and I thought she went to her room to wind down while it was in the oven. I ended up closing my book and turning on the TV. As I flipped through the channels, I saw my mama again, but she was coming from the kitchen again. Mind you, she never walked back to the kitchen after I saw her the first time, and she actually stopped to ask what book I had in my lap to make small talk. I stared at her wide-eyed. I still get goosebumps thinking about who or what I saw. My dad had gotten home later that night because he was helping my grandmama with housework. I sat them down and told them what was happening, and me and my brother chimed in with his stories as well. He was hearing and seeing copies of each of us walking around the house. My dad said he had been experiencing it also, but didn't want to scare us, so he kept quiet. We slowly...
I'm getting like chill bomb.
Literally.
Like straight up chill bomb.
We slowly started putting two and two together and realized something started happening around the time we brought those prizes from the fair. He told me and my brother to bring any and everything we won or bought to him. I took the posters down and brought the stuffed animal to him. I kid you not, as my dad pulled out the holy oil my auntie gifted him, the faces on the posters started turning menacing. It was like being in a movie of the Haunted Mansion or something. But the item that had the darkest energy was the stuffed animal. My dad had it in his hand, and the face on that little tiger looked like a demon. He and my mama prayed over the animal, and a dark shadow jumped from it and scurried off. The posters and the stuffed animal returned to normal, but my mama knew whatever it was still in the house and opened every window and door and lit white candles while my dad prayed over every corner of the house. As he was finishing, we heard a loud bang at the back door and ran towards it to see the screen door closing back. Whatever it was must have ran out. We proceeded to close and lock the doors and windows and do a protective prayer around the house to make sure it didn't come back. After that, we never had problems with the prizes we won. I kept that tiger for years until one of my little cousins found a liking to it and I gave it to her. She never had any problems with it either. We told our grandma about it, and she thinks that man might have put juju on our stuff. She used to take us to the fair all the time when we were younger, and always told us she never liked the energy it brought to the town. To this day, before bringing any gifts, prizes, antiques, etc., we always try to remember to cleanse it before letting it enter the threshold of our house.
Oof.
We live in Georgia now, moved here back in 2010, and we have collected a few new stories from living here. It's nice to know that Georgia is just as spoopy as Tennessee. Well, my goodness, Courtney.
Holy Hannibal Lecter.
Wow.
That
was like a horror film.
That was a horror
literally
movie. Absolutely.
Well, because that was the last thing I was expecting you to say when you cleansed the tiger, was that you were going to see the entity jump
leap
out
from it and scurry away.
Ugh.
Oh, my Lord.
Which is concerning.
It's terribly concerning.
So if you live in,
Chris is stressed out, yo.
well, yeah,
He's stressed. Like, if you're listening, you should just see this man right now.
yeah,
There's just so many implications going on because here's the thing. I don't think the entity in the tiger was the mimic. I think the entity in the tiger was drawing from multiple entities from all around, because mimics generally affix to single because it's working hard to be the individual in question. So, mimics are oftentimes repeatedly the same person. So the fact that there was a mimic of your father, a mimic of your mother, a mimic of you, becomes an intriguing thing. And it's like you might have just been at ground zero of just a swell of energies and entities. The tiger was a battery. The thing in it, a powerful source of energy. But that doesn't address the mimics.
right.
So I would be interested if you're still having very subtle versions of that same sensation. If you're having very subtle things, because, and this is an interesting thing, like when people go to haunted buildings and they have pronounced experiences, but those experiences are very personal, the chances are they are experiencing ghosts that are following them around, and now they're in a space where the energy gives them the ability to be known. If you bring some item into your house that emanates an energy, and the spirits of the house suddenly have more strength and more energy and more, ability, they make themselves known. So it's a fascinating thing because, like as I wasn't sure what to think of these items, but if there was some bad mojo on the tiger, if the tiger was harboring a spirit specifically, it's possible that spirit was emanating such immense power, because you talked about the negativity, the infighting with your family. That's usually a cursed item, a cursed object near you. That can cause like the kind of turmoil you're talking about. And that's what I thought we were going towards.
Right.
But then there started being this mimic thing, which is kind of a different category, because generally mimics do not thrive on seeding mistrust between people, because they want you to trust each other. They want you to answer when you call. So if there's
right.
this negativity going on in the family, it doesn't serve a mimic. Mimics are oftentimes very kind and very nice.
So that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna mention that next. Like once you made your point, but you're making the same point as I was about to make, is that a mimic if it was a mimic, wouldn't it try to not be weird? Like, would it try to not be like, hey, I'm a mimic?
It's trying its hardest to be the person that it's mimicking,
Yeah.
Which is why it comes across as just a little bit off. Like how you're saying, like the one with your mom, like how your mom always makes small talk anytime she enters a room with people in it, and how it was walking
stiffly and
because
it's imitating.
Exactly. It's not getting it fully
But
right.
why would the dad whisper? That's my whole thing.
No,
Right.
that's just it. All of these pieces are kind of broken into this weird picture, because, for instance, if you and your mother in a big fight, because these negative emotions and this negative energy has caused you to fight, when the mimic's like, come into this room. If you're mad, you're not going to go into that room. You're not going to respond to your mother if you're fighting with them. So it doesn't behoove a mimic for you to have this kind of strange stressors going on. So it's interesting to me that that's kind of what it feels like, is you brought a big battery into your house. Your house is full of mimics.
Yeah.
Which is horrifying.
That is horrifying.
Which is which is a whole different, and now I'm like, I need to hear the stories from Georgia to see, is there still lineup? Because here's the interesting thing. We've been talking about how the Hat Man doesn't behave like any Hat Man we know. Could the Hat Man be a mimic mimicking a Hat Man?
Ooh.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Could a mimic have experienced a hat man.
Yeah,
'Cause it's very likely that
yeah.
your brother was experiencing a hat man entity, and the mimic's like, that entity and you are connected, so I'm going to be that entity. And that's why it talks, and that's why it's like, it's me, the hat man.
With the red eyes.
Who's always watching you.
Yeah.
You see me all the time.
Yeah,
you know,
that's creepy,
it creates this weird sort of, are you dealing with like tiered levels of entities? I'm fascinated. I'm a little scared. And
All right, the
I'm
poll on
interested.
Spotify for this episode is mimic or no mimic.
Mimic or no
Right.
mimic.
If you're still listening, you know what we're talking about.
Mimic
Vote
or
now.
no mimic.
Mimic or no mimic.
Mimic or no mimic.
Because, yeah, that's actually really interesting. Because the fact that the Hat Man gave your brother diabetes, basically,
or just threatened him outright in words.
is so insane. And
So many people will tell you that the Hat Man merely observes, merely stands in the corner, merely present. But even in the first story that you shared with us, he was behaving in ways that are new to us as far as Hat Men are concerned. So and now that you're telling us the story that you had mimics, or a mimic that is very gifted, performing multiple personalities in short order of each other. Yeah, that's fascinating, and that suggests that there might be more to either the location where you used to live or your family as a whole, and you might not be done.
Yeah. I think, looking at the email, I think her name is Saki. So, Saki, that's creepy as hell.
Yeah. Well, the mimic ghost dad called her Courtney. So,
Courtney.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
But yes,
Courtney,
please
that was creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Send an update.
Yeah.
And in an update, think about, since the tiger incident to now, are there other mimic oriented kind of things? Because they don't have to be as outright. They don't have to be like seeing or thing, but even like simple deja vu can be a mimic's influence on you.
Nope. Send it in. Balls in your Courtney. All right.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. I'm back. Never went anywhere. Oh yeah.
That's the response to the pun.
All right. Let's bust it down.
Okay. Well, anyways, well, thank y'all for sending in your ghost mail. Very enthralling stories as always. So.
Now, both of them were kind of cinematic.
Yeah.
I mean, they were really good.
Very good. So if you have a ghost story that you want to share with us, you can find us at ghostmail@hauntedcitypodcast.com. But with that, my name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And stay spooky, y'all.